Hello students, now we shall look at the fifth and last module on management and economics subject, costing and depreciation. Subject code is 18ME51. I am Professor Suresh Mane. So the syllabus is something like this: costing and depreciation, components of costs, estimation of selling price, marginal cost, first cost, all kinds of overheads, indirect cost estimation with depreciation, mensuration and estimation of material cost, cost estimation of mechanical process, idling time, product costing, approaches of product costing, causes of depreciation, methods of computing depreciation charges, that is straight line method, declining balance method, sum of years method, sinking fund method, service output method. Then lastly we will see taxation concepts, personal taxes, income tax, corporate income taxes, and some numericals. So here you get numericals basically on the cost estimation of mechanical process, what I have seen. Regularly you get those kind of problem. For that you should know that mensuration also. So regarding the theory questions in the semester end examination SEE, I briefly explain the cost, components of cost, and explain with diagram indirect cost estimation with depreciation. So explain how selling price is fixed of a product and show all components of a cost. Define depreciation and explain various causes of depreciation. Explain various methods of depreciation. Then define the following terms: ownership life, accounting life, economic life. Then briefly explain the standard cost and marginal cost. Differentiate between estimation and costing, and what are the objectives of costing, and why estimation and costing is required. So there basically there are two terms: one is estimation, second is costing. Very simple terminologies are there. We'll look at costing first. So the cost means the amount of expenses, whether actual or notional, incurred on or attributable to specified thing or activity. See, first you should understand there are two things. One is product or a service, okay, and then expenses also can be actual expenses or notional expenses. So in engineering, suppose you you work in a factory or you open up your own industry, then you need to make the costing of the final product. Take any example. You take, like, you are all fond of automobiles, so you are making one automobile component. Let us say you are making one crankshaft of machining of the crankshaft of automobile. So you have got a machining facility, okay. Then now you have to make out the cost for machining, okay, and that is why I was telling you should have idea about mensuration, area, surface area, volume. This information you should be having. Then only you will be able to come out at the cost, okay. And now, as per Institute of Cost and Work Accounts, ICWA India, cost is measurement in monetary terms. Monetary means money terms, of the amount of resources used for the purpose of production of goods or rendering services. As discussed earlier, goods means item is produced. Service means, like, education is a service. We are not producing anything. We are rendering services. Okay, insurance is a service. Banking is a service. Production of goods means you are manufacturing something, casting, you are doing machining, forging. These are all production of goods. So cost is measurement in monetary terms of the amount of resources used for the purpose of production of goods or rendering services. To get the results, we make efforts. Efforts constitute cost of getting the results. It can be expressed in terms of money. It means the amount of expenses incurred on or attributable to some specific thing or activity. The term cost is used in this very form. In reference to production or manufacturing of goods and services, cost refers to sum total of the value of resources used like raw material and labor and expenses incurred in producing or manufacturing of given activity. So we are talking about machining of a crankshaft. Then there is material also involved and there is labor also involved in machining this. So when we are producing or manufacturing goods, then the total value of the resources used like raw material and labor and the expense incurred in producing is known as cost. Hello students, having seen costing, now let us look at estimation. So you need to make estimates. Now I will give one example. Suppose you are building a house, your own house you are trying to build. So what you will do? You will get the design from the architect or engineer, structural engineer, get it approved from the corporation. How plan will be approved, and then you will make a rough estimate. So what is the right from the starting process, like drawing the line out of the plan, then excavation of the pits, okay, then footing, removal of the material, then UCR work or concreting of the columns, then linking with beams. So what is the amount of steel used, what is the amount of cement required, how much water you are supposed to buy, so what are the brick material, brick is used, okay, sand, then these are all material. Then there will be labor also, excavation labor, then concreting labor, then mason, plastering labor, carpenter, electrician, plumber. You will calculate everything, not precisely but at least roughly, and then you will arrive. Okay, nowadays, like for example, for 1000 square feet means it will cost around 20 lakh rupees, considering 2000 rupees per square feet. So you have not built the house, but before building the house, you want to know how much it will cost you to build the house. So this projection, what we do, this is known as estimation. Okay. Estimation is the assessment of the total cost in manufacturing a product even before it is manufactured. Same thing applies. Suppose you take the connecting rod on the, or crankshaft. So what is the material, raw material required, then what is the forging you are doing, then what are the machining operations, what are the inspection, any heat treatment is required. So all this processes you are going to assess, then that is known as estimation. Estimation is the assessment of the total cost in manufacturing a product even before it is manufactured. One must have a sound knowledge of material, labor, processing cost, quality and quantity of material required, selection of manufacturing method, manufacturing time required, etc. in order to do proper estimation. See, as an estimation engineer, you should know what is the type of material you are going to use, what is the labor, what is the machines you are going to use, what is the cost of processing, then quality and quantity of material required, then what is the manufacturing process, because different processes have got different characteristics and different costs involved, then what is the time required. So all these things should be known by a proper engineer to estimate it. The engineer must be able to state probably cost at the stage when only sketch plans are drawn. As I was telling, in case of house, only when the plan is drawn, that time only we should be able to tell, say 1000 square feet means it will cost so much, 2000 means it will, square feet means it will cost so much. So you have to, in the design stage only, after design you should be able to make a estimate. If the available funds are known, the design has to work backwards. That is, you will have to design the building product which may be constructed within the available sum. Otherwise, it can be another way around also. Like suppose you have got 40 lakhs and you want to build only 1000 square feet of house. So I was telling it will cost 2000 rupees for per square feet. But now you have got more money, so you will build it very lavishly. That also is possible. Otherwise, suppose you have got only 15 lakhs of rupees. Okay, your funds are known. I have got 15 lakhs, but I have want to build 1000 square feet house. Then you will try to do some cost cutting. Okay, the other way around also you can work. Estimation involves the computation of the quantities required and expenses likely to be incurred in the construction of the work. Okay, for say the thumb rule, 1000 square feet of house with a 2-bedroom and hall, kitchen. So what is the amount of cement required? What is the amount of steel required? What is the amount of bricks required? Sand required? Everything can be estimated in advance. The amount estimated should be sufficient to cover the probable expenditure of the work without revision by reason of minor unanticipated contingencies, but should not be so excessive as to permit extravagance in execution. So, as I was telling, the estimation should be proper. There should be no extravagance. I mean, lavishly you can't do anything, because ultimately economics play a big role. Okay, I think you have heard now Harley Davidson has left India. It was operating in India for so many years, but now because they could not sustain themselves viably, they are backed from India. So estimation is very important. Hello students, in this discussion we shall look at the elements of the cost. Okay, these all things are very simple. Please understand, these are very simple things, but only some terminologies you may be hearing for the first time. Otherwise, this is all sheer common sense. You can understand. You will just by listening to this lecture, you will understand everything. Not a big deal. Any rocket science, it's not rocket science also. Cost of production or manufacturing consists of various expenses incurred on production and manufacturing of goods or services. These are the elements of cost which can be divided into 3 groups. First is material group, second is labor, and third is expenses. Now you can see the sketch here. So elements of cost divided into 3 groups. One is material group, labor, and the other expenses. So material, again direct material, indirect material. Labor also direct material, direct labor, indirect labor, and there are other expenses. You can have indirect expenses. So all these indirect expenses are there now, whether it is in terms of material or labor or other expenses, they are called as overheads. And these overheads, where all you will have overheads, like production and work overhead, administrative overheads, selling overheads, and distributing overheads. I will just explain with some small examples. Now you take same manufacturing of crankshaft and connecting rod. Okay, you have a factory, you have got some 10 machines, lathe machine, milling machines, even some CNC machines, and you have got some 20 operators, and you have got shed, and you are machining those things. So material cost is whatever forging is happening, that is a direct material cost. Okay, but there will be indirect material also. Labor, the person who is directly machining that is direct labor, but there will be some other labor who is doing the material handling, moving the material from one place to another place. Okay, there will be some labor who will be looking into stores. Okay, these are come indirect labors. And then you have got other expenses. So you can see this overheads also, what I was telling. So first is production or work overhead. Production overhead means in the factory premises itself, you will have security fellow, you will have crane operating person. Okay, all this they are coming under you will have managers, supervising engineers, quality control engineers. They are not directly manufacturing. Control engineer, supervising engineering, he is not machining the component, but he is there in the factory premises. So that is production or work overhead. Then you have got administrative overheads. So it is not that factory means only the workshop is called factory. Then after the factory there will be a office. In that office you will have some people who will be looking after the like manager for the office, who will keep that attendance of the people coming. They'll keep records of like material manufactured, material dispatch, raw material incoming, receipts, dispatches, all this. So this office also will be there. So that comes under administrative overheads. And third is selling overheads. Selling overheads means, see, whatever we manufacture, it is not that whatever we manufacture goes on it to the market. No. Please understand, you watch TV, you get every serial, every movie what you watch, so many advertisements are coming. So these advertisements are not free, boss. Every advertisement of 5-10 seconds, it costs lakhs of rupees. So there will be people who make these advertisements. You have seen sales people who go to from one shop to shop, house to house. People are coming to sell. So so even the company has to keep some people to do the selling operations. So that is called as selling overheads. And then you have got distribution overhead. Distribution means, see, suppose your plant is located in Karwar or in Madgaon. It doesn't mean that people who are in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu and all, they'll come to your place and pick up. No. Then you should have distribution channel so that you can distribute to those places, and then it goes to the consumers or wholesalers. So you should have distribution over their offices also. So you have seen all these big companies, they have got offices in various places. So these all constitute distribution overheads. So these are all the elements of the cost. The basic elements are material, labor and other expenses. And for all this material, labor and other expenses, you have got direct cost as well as indirect cost. And all these indirect costs are called as the overheads. And the overheads start from factory overhead or works overhead, then administrative overhead, third is selling overhead, and then the distribution overheads. So whatever the material is used, that is known as direct material. But there are some indirect materials also which are required. So like consumables, stores, oil, cotton waste, printing, stationery, these are all the indirect materials. And labor also, there is direct labor as well as indirect labor. Direct labor means directly who is manufacturing, but on the manufacturer above that there will be quality control engineer, there will be some shop floor engineers, there will be timekeepers, there will be storekeepers. Okay, they all come under indirect labor because they are not directly manufacturing. And then come expenses. Expenses also, there are two expenses. One is direct, another is indirect. So indirect, all expenses will come as in the form of overheads. And there are direct expenses like you hire a special machinery, some design, molds, pattern, or you are paying some fees to use the services of architects, surveyors, other consultants. Okay, these are called as direct expenses. And then indirect expenses are where you cannot directly allocate to the material. That is called as indirect expenses. So total indirect expenses, indirect cost minus indirect material minus indirect labor. Indirect expenses are treated as a part of overheads. Rents, like rent you have to pay for the building, rates of taxes of the building, house tax, that you have to pay tax for the building, repair and insurance and depreciation of fixed assets are examples of indirect expenses. Your machine, whatever you are using, that has to be repaired. You have to do some insurance for your building and machines. Okay, these all come under indirect expenses. Now in this discussion, let us look at the various components of the cost. Okay, totally we will see 4 components. One is called the prime cost, first one. Second is the factory cost. Third is the office cost, and fourth is the total cost. Again, if you look back here, elements of cost, you started with material, labor, other expenses, direct, indirect, and then overheads. And overheads also you started with works overhead, administrative overhead, selling overhead, and distributing overheads. Similarly, the cost now are prime cost, factory cost, office cost, and total cost. So what is prime cost? Prime cost is simple. Whatever is the direct material cost, direct labor cost plus direct expenses, this is known as the prime cost. There is no indirect cost involved here, whether it is for material, labor, or other expenses. So this is the prime cost. The prime cost is also known as direct cost. That will be the minimum, least cost will be the prime cost, because direct material, direct labor, and direct expenses, no indirect cost. But now next is factory cost. Factory cost, it will consist of prime cost plus factory overheads, that is factory expenses. Okay. Now when you add this prime cost plus factory expenses or factory overheads, it will become factory cost, or as called as works cost. Okay. Factory expenses means, I told, quality control, then managers, timekeepers, storekeepers, they are all working in the factory. So they are all cost, your expenses you are adding, then it becomes the works cost or factory cost. Third one is office cost. So office cost means prime cost plus factory expenses, that will become works cost, okay, plus administrative office cost. Okay. So it consists of factory cost and administrative expenses. I told you that a factory will have an office. So office also, you may have a peon, you may have a manager, you may have timekeeper. So these are all people come into that. Okay, you have seen offices in colleges also, everywhere, schools, offices. So that comes as administrative expenses. Office cost is equal to factory cost plus administrative expenses. So office cost is also known as manufacturing cost or cost of production. This is known as manufacturing cost or cost of production, because we are only dealing with production so far. We are not dealing with sales and distribution. We are dealing only with production. That is known as cost of production or manufacturing cost. And then finally is the total cost, because we are not only produce, we have to not only produce, but you have to sell it also, you have to distribute it also. So when you include total cost, includes the office cost plus selling and distribution expenses. As I was telling, selling means you should have some agents, you should have advertisements, you should have some offices, distribution, logistics will be there. So all this will come in selling as well as distributing expenses. So total cost is equal to office cost plus selling expenses plus distribution expenses. Now you can see this table here, very nicely it is given. Left side, extreme left, is direct material plus direct labor plus direct expenses, that is known as prime cost. On the prime cost, when you add factory expenses, it becomes factory cost. Then third, factory cost or works cost, when you add administrative expenses, it becomes office cost. And office cost, when you add the selling and distribution cost, it becomes total cost, okay, or selling cost. But there you have to add some profit, okay, mostly you have to add profit or sometimes loss also, then it becomes the selling price. This is how the selling price is decided. Whatever a product is manufactured in any industry, so you will have first direct material, direct labor, and direct expenses, that is known as prime cost. Then on the prime cost you will add factory expenses, it will become factory cost. Okay, on factory expenses you will add administrative expenses, it will become office cost. Okay, so the office cost means that is the cost of manufacturing. Then a cost of production or manufacturing, you add selling and distribution cost, it becomes total cost. And for that total cost you will add some profit, it becomes the selling price. Okay, this way you have to understand the things. Thank you.